I'm the Arrow.
And I'm the Sparrow.
And this is ValeViewSports. Show number 3, very exciting. This week we've got our AFL predictions. We've put a bit of thought into this, so let's see who's got the most accurate ladder, eh? How you feeling about yours?
Not good.
No, I wouldn't feel good about it either.
Oh look, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you've got St Kilda in your 8, I think. That's a problem. Anyway, we'll get to that.
No, I don't.
And we'll also wrap up round 1 of the Formula 1 from Melbourne and look ahead to round 2 in Malaysia at the Sepang circuit. Alright, it's the time of year where the AFL starts. It's got some weird split round beginning this year, but yeah, the Crows and the Bombers kick things off in Adelaide on Friday night.
I don't like it.
Neither do I. What kind of a headline game is that? Crows versus the Bombers.
Oh.
That's a bit weird. Anyway, let's get straight into it. So, we're not going to go as hectic as the NRL. We're far from AFL experts, so hopefully we'll pick a ladder and let's see how close we get. Sparrow, who do you see struggling this season?
Oh, well, obviously you've got the usual ones, the Giants, the Sun, the Power. But look, I definitely think the Demons will probably be in the bottom 4 too.
You don't think Koshy's going to turn the Power around?
No, I don't.
No, neither do I. I think the bloke's an idiot. But yeah, the Giants and Suns, I think they'll continue to improve, but it's just still the majority of their list is very young. They're still going to get their bodies used to AFL football against bigger, stronger, fitter blokes. I think the Giants will probably win again 1 or 2 games. The Suns I can probably see winning about 4 or 5, but yeah, they'll be down in the cellar. I can only just put them behind the Bulldogs. I think the Bulldogs look atrocious.
Oh, look, they don't look the best, but I definitely wouldn't put them in my bottom 4.
Oh, I would for sure. They're going to be lucky if they win 5 games. I think they lost 11 on the trot to finish the season last year.
Yeah.
I think the Power and the Demons will be down there as well. Who have you got just outside the 8 there?
Well, look, I've got the Lions. I thought they did well in the NAB Cup. I think they'll improve in form.
They won't get to the finals?
But no, they'll miss out on the finals.
Yeah.
I've got the Crows there.
The Crows to
The
miss the
Crows.
finals.
Yeah.
After coming within 5 points of beating the Hawks in the preliminary final. Are you high?
No, I just don't think they can do it this year. I don't think they can get in the 8. I think they've had a lot of off-season mishaps, and that's.
Well, I mean about the Kurt Tippett crap, but Kurt Tippett's one of the most overrated blokes. You don't think the Crows?
No.
Oh my goodness!
No, man.
If there's any question, it's on their back line, but forwards led by T-Rex, midfield with Scotty Thompson and Patrick Dangerfield. Oh, you idiot! I've got the Saints in there. I think they'll miss the 8. I think ever since their grand final runs in 09 and 10, they've on a steady decline. It's because they've got an ageing list.
Well, look, they've been unlucky with obviously dramas such as the sex scandal and stuff like that. But I mean, that's never going to help anyone.
Probably not. No, I've got the Bombers in there. Probably until the Asada garbage came out, I would have had the Bombers in my 8. But you can't sit here and tell me that's not going to have an effect on them. And they've proven that they've got some sort of issue with training anyway, because they seem to just have these second half of the season fade-outs the last few years. Like you, I think the Lions will miss the 8. I don't think they'll miss by much.
Oh, no.
I think they could go, 11 wins, 11 losses, and because there's 18 teams, you can conceivably have a 50% record and still miss the 8. So I think the Lions will probably just miss. I expect them to really play well at the Gabba this year, though. I know they've made that a big goal. And I can see the Tigers and the Kangaroos just missing out. The Kangaroos, they don't really do it for me. I don't think they've got a real X-factor player who can change a game. And Richmond, I don't know whether there's enough depth in their squad. They've got some unbelievable players like Jack Rewalt, Trent Cotchin and Delidio. But where's the depth outside that?
Yeah, look, that's true.
Alright, let's get to the top 8, Sparrow. Who have you got in your 8? Tell me about it.
Well, look, from 5 to 8, I've got the Pies, the Cats, the Blues and the Tigers. I'll start with the Pies. I think the Pies, I mean, after their few brilliant seasons, I'm a Pie supporter, I was really happy with that. But look, after their few seasons, look, I just think they've been on a downhill road. I mean, they've lost some of the passion, and they really need to get that up. The Cats, a bit of the same. I mean, they've lost Lingy, and ever since they lost Lingy, they've been a bit...
Great bloke.
Oh, Lingy's a great bloke. Look, the Blues, Carlton.
Mick.
Oh, Mick.
He's back.
Yeah, he is. Look, you can't have a top 8 and not have them in it. I think that they're definitely in there. Probably not top 4, but look, they're still good.
Yeah.
And well, the Tigers. I mean, you covered the Tigers. Look, I think they can just make the 8.
That wouldn't surprise me if they did.
Yeah. Who have you got?
Okay, I've got the Cats and the Pies finishing 8th and 7th. The Cats, ageing list, a lot of young players coming through, but I think that ageing list will catch up with them. That's where all their top end players are. They're still good enough to make the 8. They're a very, very solid team at home, but and they're still very good in big games. But yeah, I just can't see them contending. To be honest, I think they're going to lack punch in the forward line. Tommy Hawkins can't do it all by himself. There's questions over Podsiadely's fitness. I would expect to see Harry Taylor move from the back line to playing a lot of forward this year.
I would like to see that.
The Magpies, I think they'll finish 7th again. Not so much that their list is ageing, but I think the change of coach hurt them. Nathan Buckley is a good coach, but he's no Nick Malthouse. So I think the Pies will, they'll be in the 8th, but I can't see them contending for the premiership. And in positions 5 to 6, I've got the boys from the West. West Coast Eagles. Just a very, 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 very good team.
You've got them outside your 4.
Yeah, look, it's harsh. I'm a Dockers supporter. I've got the Dockers in 6. West Coast play very well at home. They're one of these teams that, again, I don't think there's any real standouts, but geez, they've just got 10 or 12 players on just a really solid level.
Yeah, they're really consistent.
Their midfield is very, very solid. You've got someone like Pritis who goes through and tags people, and you've got runners like Rosa, young fella Luke Shuey, Andrew Gaff, he's going to be a hell of a player. And they've got a really good forward line as well, Lacroix, Nikoski, Kennedy. And the Dockers, look, I think we're a great chance. I think we can get to at least a preliminary final. Ross Lyon's a very good coach. I think he needs to put a bit more emphasis on attack. The thing that concerns me about Freo is our defence, even though Ross Lyon's a defensive coach. We have lost a few good key defenders. I think Broughton has gone to the Suns. Zach Dawson looks like half the player he was at St Kilda since he's come across the Dockers. But we've got a great forward line led by the Pav. Don't get me started on the Pav. If he was from Victoria, played for a Victorian club, he would be rated so much higher. He is easily in the top 20, top 10 players in the game. Hayden Ballantyne will be up there, small forward, crumbing, kicking plenty of goals. Chris Main showed he's a quality player. And Stephen Hill and Nat Fyfe are really guys to watch out for. All right, Sparrow, your top 4, the big guns, the contenders.
Well, in 4th, I've got the Dockers.
Nice.
I mean, you can't go past the Pav. Pav and Valentine, they're unbelievable up front, and look, they're going to lead them. I've got the Eagles in 3rd.
Yeah?
I just think they're so consistent, and I love them. I love them for this year.
I hate them, but I think they're a good team.
Look, the finals, I as much as it's boring, but I'd say the same as last year. I'd say Swans and Hawks. I've got the Hawks actually winning for this year.
What, as in minor premiership, or do you think they'll win the comp?
The actual comp, I think they'll do it. Buddy's unbelievable. You can't go past.
Will he stay?
Yeah, he'll definitely
I think he'll stay.
All right, how about you?
Top 4, I have the Sydney Swans, defending premiers, really, really, really strong side. A lot of great leaders. McVeigh, even though Goods has hung up the captaincy, he's still a marvel at his age. Kieran Jack, he's coming alive as a player. Josh Kennedy in the midfield. Really, really solid back line. People like Teddy Richards. Geez, they're a good team, the Swans. And they're very well coached.
Really
John Longmire knows what he's doing. He's got like a big no dickheads policy, which is good to have. That will be a force to be reckoned with. We've got the Blues in 3rd. Malthouse has proven that he's a great coach. They've really changed their game back to the old Collingwood style. They're not kicking through the corridors so much. They're using the wings a lot. They've got some great players in the midfield. Carazzo, Mark Murphy, he's a star. Chris Judd still delivers. I think the Blues need to find some more trusted goal kickers. Waite needs to have a huge season. He needs to cement himself as a key forward. That could be what lets them down, Carlton. I think they're top 4 material, but I don't know whether they're premiership contenders because I don't know where the goals are coming from. I've got the Hawks in the top 2. You can't go past the Hawks. One of the dominant teams of the last 5 years. They should have more than one premiership to their name. Just a brilliant across the park back line, Burgoyne, people like that. Who's the fella who's the really good kicker? Schoenmakers, Luke Hodge, he'll direct traffic. Midfield, Jordan Lewis, Sam Mitchell, unbelievable player. Brad Sewell is one of the most underrated players in the comp. And then you've got goal kickers like Buddy, Roughhead. This is one of their last chances because they're not getting any younger. They've just got to win it this year if you're a Hawthorn supporter.
Oh, but look, they great from the back all the way up to the front. I mean,
they've just got the best team on paper.
they really do.
Can they deliver? I think they'll be thereabouts. And as minor premiers, I'll do my grand final prediction in a sec. As minor premiers, I've got the Adelaide Crows. Now, you had them out of the 8. I thought the Crows were very, very close to making the grand final. Their team's only going to get better and better because it's a younger list. They've got a lot of young players coming through. Walker, Dangerfield, only very young. Matthew Wright in the midfield, he's a solid player. We've got people like Daniel Talia at the back, he won the Rising Star. And then you've got veterans like Scotty Thompson, Nathan Van Berlo in the midfield, Paul Pleasure up in the forward line. They've just got a really good mix. Brenton Sanderson, another bloke who looks like he's a very disciplined coach. He looks like he won't have any dickheads at the club at all. Given that they're a good enough side to win away from home. I think they won a few big games at Subiaco last year. Hopefully they can translate that form into Melbourne. They are a cracking chance. They are a very, very, very solid team. And a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, they might be thereabouts. I think their popular prediction is about 5th to 8th. They will fly under the radar. I think they'll win something like 18, 19 games. They'll be right there.
Well, look, they are great, but I just think their inexperience will show itself, and they won't even make the 8.
All right, Sparrow, grand final. Who's your grand final?
Well, I've already said mine, the Hawks and the Swans. I mean,
Same as last year?
Same as last year. You can't go past it. The Swans, very strong midfield, very strong. And the Hawks, whole team, best on paper, I reckon it'll transfer onto the field.
All right, I'll make a bold prediction. The people of Melbourne won't be happy about this, an out-of-town grand final. I'll go the Crows versus the Eagles. Just ranted about the Crows. I talked about the Eagles, just a solid team all over the park. I think the Crows will play the Eagles in the grand final. What about your Brownlow medalist?
Oh, look, to be honest, I haven't thought that far ahead. The Brownlow medalist, it's always tough to decide that before you really get to see them on the field. So,
wow, that's some fence sitting and a half. I'm going to go with Patrick Dangerfield from the Adelaide Crows. Come on, Sparrow, give us a name.
No, I'm not doing it.
Well, that concludes our AFL predictions. Hopefully at the end of the video we'll get a list up for you. Feel free to leave your comments on what you think the ladder will be. You can send us an abusive comment as well if your team's missed out on the 8. We'll have a look at the end of the year and see how we went. Alright, time to talk F1. We saw round 1 down in Albert Park.
No, wasn't it glorious?
Oh, it was beautiful. I didn't get to watch it live, so I was pretty pissed off. It's not really the same. Then some dickhead started sending me text messages.
Hey!
When I strictly told him I wasn't watching it live.
I didn't give it away, so it's alright.
Anyway, if you missed it, what happened in Melbourne was that Kimi Raikkonen of latest won, Fernando Alonso Ferrari second, Sebastian Vettel a Red Bull third. Alright, let's get straight into it. Let's talk about how Daniel Ricciardo fared in his Toro Rosso. Pretty ordinary qualifying, couldn't beat his teammate John-Eric Byrne, couldn't beat him in the race either, although he had to pull out with about 15 laps left. Apparently he had an exhaust problem.
Yeah, look, that was a big disappointment.
Williams, they were boring. They really were. Occasionally you expect of Williams to sort of produce something out of nothing. I remember Maldonado won a race last year, but the new bloke Bottas, no, he didn't show a lot. It doesn't look like he's got a very good car beneath his feet. And Maldonado was his usual self, couldn't drive through a corner properly, so found himself in the fence.
Maldonado was all over the show.
Maldonado's an idiot. He may kill someone this year.
Well, he might. It's possible.
Sauber also very disappointing. I thought Sauber were going to head it for a pretty good year. They've got huge raps on Gutierrez. They've had huge raps on him the last few years, coming up in the development series and then as their reserve and test driver last year.
I like him. I think he can prove to be something.
Yeah, well, he didn't even make it out of Q3, so I'd be disappointed with that. Hulkenberg made it into Q1, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
But then he couldn't even start. Now, that's got to be
terrible.
a big concern for Sauber in the first race if they're having mechanical problems and don't allow one of the cars to start.
Oh, can you imagine?
Force India. They really look like they're starting to break away from that middle pack of teams, and I thought that was the case towards the end of last year as well. They've got solid qualifying pace. De Resta showed that because he made it through Q1. And really good race pace. De Resta finished 8th, and Sutil got 7th. Sutil was brave. He attempted a two-stopper.
Yeah.
Didn't quite work because he had to come in right towards the end and he fell back. But for a while there, it definitely looked like he could have come
He was
in the
looking
top
dangerous.
5. and it's shown that they can run a good long strategy. They can run well. The car seems to behave well with the tyres.
Yeah,
compared to a lot of other teams that
it
struggle.
almost paid off the risk, but just not quite at the end.
Disappointments. How about McLaren? Dear, oh dear. I mean, I thought McLaren would maybe not be that quick this year, but I can't believe the lack of pace they showed. I mean, in qualifying, you saw in Q2 that for some reason they decided going out and slicks was a good idea towards the end in the driving rain.
What would possess them to come to that decision?
Well, it didn't pay off. I mean, Perez didn't get through and Button scraped through, and then in Q3, Button was comfortable in the race. The car really didn't look like it had much pace. Perez would be disappointed. He drove a pretty ordinary race, I thought, but in saying that, at the moment, there's a pretty average car beneath him. And Button just seemed to be really frustrated. You could hear him on the radio at times. I think he was stuck in a lot of dirty air behind cars, but I mean, in the end, he wasn't really a contender.
He didn't produce
anyway.
at all.
He had to pit really early as well, so it shows that McLaren's not dealing with the softer tyres very well either.
Well, it was hard conditions because they kept changing all the time. They didn't know whether it was going to be pissing down rain or whether it was going to dry up, which it eventually did in the end.
Yeah, look, you would hope if you're a McLaren fan that car would get better as the season goes on. You definitely expect it to with a team like that. Mercedes look like they've got a pretty good car. It's always been a very quick car, particularly in a straight line. I think the performance could be the issue because it seems, even last year, the performance was pretty inconsistent with the vehicle. Rosberg had to pull out of the race. I can't remember what issue he had, to be honest, but for a while there in qualifying, Rosberg was putting in some big laps. In the end, he got 6th, but it showed the car's got pace.
Oh, it certainly did. Look, they have a strong car this season. Rosberg, I think he was very unlucky because he did eventually crash out. Look, I think, we'll cover it later, but I think he'll show his true colours in the next couple of races and really come up through the rankings.
Yeah, Hamilton, pretty standard. Lewis Hamilton drove very well, don't like him, but he got the maximum out of the car in qualifying, got it onto the second row in 3rd place, drove a pretty solid race. The Mercedes' big issue is that they chew up the tyres more than anyone else, and Hamilton was complaining about that. You could see he barely hung on for 5th. If the race went on a couple of laps longer, Webber would have caught him.
Well, his rear tyres were slipping all over the place. They were in a bad shape.
Yeah, I think he did the best he probably could. Red Bull. After qualifying, I thought Red Bull looked like killing it in the race for all money. And after the first lap, when Vettel charged off the line, I thought, oh, here we go again. But then it just showed that the Red Bull is a very good qualifying car. And at this point, which is unusual, because they're usually such strong starters and it takes a long time for everybody to catch up, that they're struggling a little bit with their race pace.
Look, I noticed that. Look, Red Bull, I thought they were going to be great. Seeing them in qualifying, I thought, oh, well, Vettel's got this. Mark, unfortunately, look, he qualified well, 2nd, but
yeah, he put in a good lap.
Look, going from your start, you can't start at 2nd and then immediately slip back to 7th. Now, I know he's talked about his car problems with KERS and such.
Yeah, apparently he didn't even have any KERS at the start.
Yeah, look, that surely would affect you. But Mark, he's never been a particularly good starter, and that's something he really needs to improve on. Vettel, I felt sure he was going to win the race. Look, his first lap, or his first couple of laps actually, I thought he was looking reasonably strong, but after that he kind of just died and had an ordinary
Well, the Ferraris
race.
were catching up to him pretty quickly. I thought with Webber that, again, as usually, got shafted with the race strategy, but that's fair enough. Vettel was in a better position than him. I thought he spent a lot of time in dirty air as well, so he possibly could have got a bit of a better result. And towards the end, he was one of the quickest guys out on track, so he'd be disappointed with 6th, most certainly. Overall, Red Bull car looks like it's a brilliant package, particularly in qualifying. But at the moment, their lack of pace in the race looks pretty mystifying. But it's Red Bull. I wouldn't write them off.
Oh, definitely not. Once they get these little kinks worked out, they'll be lightning.
Okay, Ferrari. Their car in qualifying it's struggling still, which is unusual. I thought in qualifying Alonso did meh, and I thought Massa got the absolute maximum out of the car, and he still only qualified 4th.
Yeah, well, look, Ferrari, they're not good in qualifying, but in actual races,
How good is their race pace?
oh, it is amazing. I think they're really the dark horses of this year.
Oh, they're not dark horses. They've got the best car at the moment by a country mile in terms of race pace. Massa and Alonso were catching up to Vettel very quickly. In the early part of the race, Massa was the quickest guy on track by far. He was catching Vettel and holding off Alonso. Alonso kept trying to dive past him. Massa, this is the best race I've seen him drive in a long time. He was very competitive, and in the end, I think he got really shafted by the strategy that Ferrari adopted. Ferrari have always been like that. They've looked after Alonso, but Massa, particularly with that second pit stop, way too early. And I think in the end, there was a difference between him finishing fourth and possibly getting as high as second.
Oh, look, I think it was ridiculous. Massa and Alonso, they raced very well. I mean, you could see right at the start their race pace was extremely well. Look, he did get shafted in the pit stops, but he's gone on record saying, look, he wouldn't have liked to pit when Alonso did.
Yeah.
And he said you'd want to get about a good 15 laps for every tyre, but he only got 11. But look, I mean, what's done is done. He wasn't too upset about it, but I did think it was unfairly done by.
Yeah, they've got a great race pace. Could be a very good year for Ferrari by the look of it.
It definitely
Alonso was typical. Alonso drove a spectacular race. Got close to the maximum out of the car. He's going to be a huge championship contender. We'll finish Melbourne with Lotus, the winners. I think a lot of people forget Lotus really flew under the radar in pre-season testing. Their car was very quick. In the last pre-season testing, Grosjean drove the fastest time by far. In qualifying, they still look like, similar to Ferrari, they're struggling a little bit with the qualifying package. They did nothing really brilliant. They qualified 7th and 8th, pretty average.
Yeah.
And I think going into the race, I think they were quietly confident, but a lot of other people weren't expecting too much. Grosjean didn't do much in the race. He had a pretty ordinary start. I think he got caught up in a bit of a spin or something and really struggled in dirty air towards the back of the field and only just got in the points. But Kimi Räikkönen got a great start, got off the line quickly, stayed within touch of people, and the thing that won it for him was he stayed out a lot longer in that first stint, got him towards the front, and then in the second pit stop he was able to undercut Alonso, and from there he drove a seamless race. Lotus, they've got good race pace. If they can get the qualifying right, they'll have a very dangerous car, particularly with Kimi, because he's a brilliant driver. My final observation with Lotus is, for them to get the best out of their car and the best for Kimi, is that Grosjean needs to have a good year.
Oh, look, you definitely need both of your team to be up there to support each other. Look, for Lotus, I think they do have an underrated car. However, I think Kimi was absolutely seamless. He got the absolute maximum out of his car. Their car is good. It has good race pace. His racing ability is very underrated. I think at Albert Park he drove seamlessly.
Yeah, he was solid. Alright, let's get on to Malaysia. This Sunday at the Sepang circuit. I don't really like the Sepang circuit. I just think the way it's designed is pretty boring and not too much extravagant cornering. There's two back-to-back straights and arguably there's a lot of sort of shorter straights there as well. With straights, you would say in terms of straight line speed, this track is right up Mercedes' alley. Expect a big week for Rosberg and Hamilton. I think Red Bull will struggle if straight line speed is ordinary and they look like they're struggling with their race package. I would expect Mercedes and Ferrari to dominate this weekend.
Oh, well, definitely. Look, I think the course, I don't mind it, but I don't think it's overly good. It does have a lot of straights, so it will be absolutely perfect for Mercedes. Hamilton and Rosberg, they'll definitely be up there. Well, Rosberg was going to be up there anyway, but Malaysia, he always does well. Look, I think there'll be a lot of early crashes. I think at 1 and 2.
Yeah,
I think it's a pretty decent first couple of corners. So look,
yeah, 1 and 2 is a good start.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good start. It kind of helps other teams because they don't have the straight line speed. That first corner can change the race. So look, I like it, but yeah, look, Mercedes definitely going to have a great race.
Any predictions for Malaysia?
Look, Rosberg, I'm not sure if he'll come in first, but he'll definitely be in the top 3. Look, Vettel, I think he'll do it.
You think he'll win?
I think he'll win.
I think that Vettel will probably go on pole again, and the Mercedes will be up there. I think it'll be a battle between Alonso and Hamilton if they can keep their cars on the road. All right, we'll come back next week and we'll review round 2 from Malaysia. And before we go, I just want to give a quick shout out to a friend of mine, Mr. Mal Ryan. Unfortunately, Mal was involved in an accident where he fell off a roof. He got caught up in some cables, down he tumbled. So Mal, mate, we hope you get better soon.
Yeah, good luck, mate.
Love you, Mal. See you next week, guys.